I'm not going to keep you guys too much longer, but I just want to clear up some information and some inaccuracies. So I had an opportunity to review the last board meeting and the one that I was absent from. In the conversation as it relates to Al Ronan, our lobbyist, it was stated that we've paid him over $100,000. That's not true. His contract is very specific in the first one that we initiated and then now in this one that we have initiated. When you talk about lobbying and services provided to the village, I don't know how many people know that we do have 118 House of Representatives in the House, and we have 59 in the Senate. We have one representative, Representative Emmanuel Chris Welch is our representative for the 7th District, and Senator Leifer, who's the majority leader in the 4th District for the Senate. So we only have 2 legislators that represent the village of Broadview. So when you talk about the conversation as it relates to having a lobbyist and if it's important for the village to have a lobbyist, when you talk about the funding that comes from a state opportunity, that's a benefit to the community. So we had this conversation prior to the board meeting before, in my absence, and we gave out some numbers to the body, the elected officials, on what that number looked like for us. I don't know how many people follow legislation that legislate with me, but I follow the legislation. And so a lot of the summaries that we get from our lobbyists is about legislation of things that matter. So when we look at bills like a House bill or a Senate bill, we get to say which one is going to be more advantageous for the village of Broadview, that he has to lobby for us to get the resources that we need. So keep in mind the state of Illinois haven't had a capital bill in many, many years. And so in this last General Assembly, they passed the capital bill, which was $40 billion capital bill. All communities didn't get in the statute of allocated resources to come to their community. But what we did get out of that capital bill, because we have 2 phenomenal legislators in the House and in the Senate, on top of having a lobbyist, because they have to work with their colleagues to negotiate these, the budget, just like we do. We talk about the budget and we come up with a consensus on what that looked like as legislators for the local level for Broadview. When you're talking about 118 in the House, and we only have 1, and 59 in the Senate, and we only have 1. And they got to work with their colleagues to get things done. But when you have a lobbyist, because they lobbying for other things, for other communities that they represent, they just don't represent Broadview, they represent other communities, the 2 that we do have. So they have to make sure that they get resources for those communities, for the people that they serve. But when you have a lobbyist, they're able to work through the other legislators to get things done for the village of Broadview, or if he have other contracts with other communities that he lobby for, he's lobbying at large. So when we get the summary, we look at the legislation, we see what's important to Broadview. And so things that come up about, I'll share with the chief, fire, the police chief, public works, or the building, and say which ones do we want the lobbyists to entertain, because I don't do operations, I oversee the operations. The legislators that sit on this dais with me, they legislate policies and procedures for us. But the department heads do the actual work. So it's important for me that I get the bills to them so that they can give input, so that we can have that conversation on what's going to be best for Broadview. In the capital bill that got approved by the legislators that represent us, we were able to get in the state statute $2.2 million. That's for the Roosevelt Road to Salt Creek bike path. That's $2.2 million. If we had not had a lobbyist and the 2 phenomenal legislators that we have on board, we probably wouldn't have got a dime. Because I can't be in Springfield to advocate and talk to all these legislators at any given time. I'm not a lobbyist. I don't do that every day. And so to pay $40,000 for a contract to secure $2.2 million for something that we need, and I got the numbers from Public Works and from Chris, and I gave it to, I had a meeting with Representative Welch, I had a meeting with Senator Leifer, and I had a meeting with the lobbyists and said, this is what we need. What I presented for the capital bill was a $30 million capital bill just for the village of Broadview. We knew we couldn't get everything, but we did get $2.2 million. We did get $250,000 for the fire department, for the roof. And so I have had these conversations on this board as it relates to the importance of having a lobbyist and how you successfully look at what success look like. You can't tell me you pay somebody $40,000 and you secure millions of dollars of revenue that's gonna come back and we don't have to pay a dime on it. That's number one. Number three, when we talk about the senior housing. So Dave and I worked on the senior housing project with Ida and going through that, and we worked with our legislators, our representative, our senator, and the lobbyists. We secured $13 million. And the first time we submitted the application to get the senior housing development project, we were told at that meeting when we got awarded that that has never happened in any municipality to be awarded the first time. So I say kudos to our legislators, Senator Leifer, who's the majority leader, and Representative Welch, and our lobbyists for doing a good job. They did their jobs. They serve our community by bringing resources here. And to Matt's point, when you look at the revenue on, I wasn't here 10 years ago and how they got things, but when we talk about relationships, so I'm listening to this audio, and they're talking about relationships with Al Ronan, with the relationships with the Delgado Group, but everything that we do is about relationships. And the reason why we wasn't getting nothing, because the former mayor didn't have no relationships. That's a fact. Because if he did, resources would have been coming during his 2 terms. That didn't happen. So I want to be real clear on how we look at what success looked like. The bills are available to the legislators. Trustee Abraham, she puts out an email. I don't see it, but she tells me she sends an email for the trustees to let them know that the bills are available for review. Many trustees don't come until the night of the board meeting to review bills. You don't have to call me directly, but you can call a department head, you can call the finance team to get all your questions answered before you get here and talk about bills. The other thing that came up in the conversation was the $3,000 for T-shirts. Yes, we paid $3,000 for T-shirts. But let me give you guys the facts. We have a health fair that we've been doing for the past 2 years, and we asked for sponsorships. In that sponsorships, we secured $9,000. The T-shirts came out of the sponsors that sponsored that event so that we can do more for the community. And guess what? Al G. Ronan was a sponsor of that event. So when we talk about the relationships that we don't just have anybody on our team that we know we can't do business with or it's not a good outfit for the village of Broadview, because when I ran to be the mayor in this town, I stood on transparency, accountability, honesty, and we're gonna be fiscal responsible. That's what I ran on, and that's my commitment to this community. I'm not gonna sit back and just let these ideas come out on how you feel about a certain thing, but when we talk about T-shirts, the T-shirts, we didn't charge the residents a dime for nothing that we gave them. Not 1 cent, because our sponsors believe in our community to give back to the community so that our community can have more. That's relationships. That's doing a service to our community to make sure that we have what we need to deliver a good product. The deposit, so on the credit card statement, the deposit was 2 deposits. It was two charges of $1,500. And I just want to clear it for the record so that you all know that we're not doing anything unethical. We're transparent in everything that we deliver, whether it's from the mayor's office, the fire chief office, the police chief, the building department, public works, or the finance department. We do everything in decent, in order, in transparency and honesty. The first deposit, well, anytime you make a big purchase, the company that you do business with, they want a deposit. So we had to give them a 50% deposit. So that's the first $1,500. The second $1,500 was the final payment when we received the goods and we approved what we asked for. So that's a total of $3,000 for T-shirts. And every year since I've been in office, we've been supporting Roosevelt School Back to School, and we've been supporting Lindop Back to School. And the backpacks that were charged, those backpacks went to the students that we represent in Broadview. So that's where that conversation went. So I just want to clear the record and just be real authentic with everybody on how this looked. When we talk about, so issues that came up about the water bills, how, people had excessive water bills and stuff, and I was one of them. But I just wanted to just kind of look and try to monitor some things with this smart meter, because they said they had to have it timed to, and I've had some high water bills that I don't never have. And so, so what I did is I changed my toilet, and I went to a energy efficient toilet, and I got my water bill today, and I was like, it was me. My water bill was $39. It haven't been $39 in the last 90 days. So sometimes we have to be proactive and not be, you know, on the defense side all the time saying something is wrong, something is wrong. Sometimes we have to kind of monitor things in our own homes to fix a problem. And mine was, I'm gonna say the toilet, because my water bill just went decreased. Like, I was happy to see it. I couldn't wait to get it. I've been checking the mail every day for it. But I just want to be, when we talked about bringing a lobbyist on board, Trustee Jones was for the lobbyist. He voted for the lobbyist contract the first time. And I don't know what the issues are as it relates to the lobbyists. I've spoken with the lobbyists. I speak to them on a regular basis because we're talking about legislation that matters when you're following legislation. I have not gotten one call from one trustee to say, you know what, I'm interested in this bill. Can we follow it? What do the lobbyists have? I haven't gotten one call from the trustees to say, you know what, can you invite the lobbyists to come and speak at a board meeting to give us some updates? I haven't gotten any of those calls. And when I asked the lobbyist, Mr. Ronan, about that today, he said he hasn't even got one call or one email. And then when he first came on board with the Village of Broadview, he extended that to every trustee that was here, that if you got any questions or concerns, you can always call me. So it's kind of surprising that we're having this conversation and we trying to quantify what success looks, but if you can't look at it and see millions of dollars being allocated out of $40 billion capital bill, and the fire department is having some success now, congratulations, on receiving some funding, and the chief is receiving some funding as it relates to what we do for policing, but the lobbyist is not just the lobbyist for me, he's the lobbyist for the fire department, the police department, public works, building, and administration. And guess what else he's the lobbyist for, that we take the bill for? He's the lobbyist for our local schools. He's the lobbyist for our libraries, because anything that pertain to Broadview, he's gonna make sure that we always are in the know on what takes place for what the lobbyists to do for the residents and the constituents that pay taxes that help pay his salary. So he is held accountable to the highest standard, and if I'm gonna be held to the highest standard by this community, everybody that work up under my leadership is gonna be held to that same standard, and that include all trustees as well. And I'm standing on that. So with that being said, I just want to say good night, thank you, God bless you, and can I get a motion to adjourn?
It's been properly motioned by Trustee Horn, seconded by Trustee Senior to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Hearing no opposition, we are hereby adjourned at 8:58 p.m. Thank you.